continue to reflect on what political parties are saying in light of the release of the report. We're now joined by the Good Party's Brett Herron. Brett, thank you very much for availing yourself this afternoon. Having gone through the report, the overall impression?
Well, the overall impression is that the conduct of the President as described in the report is disappointing. Obviously, the report is not a finding of any sort against the President, other than that his response to the allegations failed to dislodge a prima facie case. So he has a prima facie case to answer. The report concedes that there are gaps in the evidence. Unfortunately, the President's response didn't address those gaps, and so the panel drew adverse inferences from that failure. And so it is a really poor and disappointing story that is told through this report at a time when South Africa really is looking for stability in leadership. I must say that I was personally disappointed by the contents of the report, and that the President was unable to meet the standard to dislodge this prima facie case.
To your point of gaps that were identified, the independent panel's report notes that we believe the truth of what really happened lies beneath the unanswered questions that are foreshadowed by what we are told from the information placed before us. We neither have the tools nor the power to excavate beneath the information that we have been provided with to uncover the answers to the unanswered questions. So plenty questions still to be answered. As the Good Party, what options are available to you as members of the National Assembly to hold the President to account?
Well, on Tuesday next week, we will get the opportunity to debate the report and to take a resolution on the establishment of a Section 89 impeachment committee, which will then interrogate the evidence and allow for the President to address through oral and documentary evidence his version, which may conclude that the President is not guilty of any misconduct. So we have to be clear that this is a prima facie, on the face of it, finding that the President may have a case to answer. So next Tuesday, the National Assembly will debate and decide what the next steps are. And that is what is available to members of the National Assembly. The President's options obviously include that he could take the panel's report on review, he could subject himself to a parliamentary process, or he may decide, to step away.
Your position, perhaps, as a party, we've heard from a number of political parties here on the channel throughout the course of the morning into this afternoon, quite clear, some even calling for an early vote, that the President should do what they perceive to be an honorable thing and step aside.
I think we haven't drawn any conclusions about the guilt of the President. The report is quite clear that there may be a case to answer. There may be a prima facie case, and so we will engage with the evidence as it arises and participate in the processes that the National Assembly adopts. And we have not made any finding as to whether the President should continue to hold office or not, and we're not making any calls in that regard. We have consistently said that it's in the best interest of the President and the country that he takes the country into his confidence and shares all the information that he can about this whole Phala theft and security breach, because in the absence of a full disclosure and taking the country into his confidence, speculation is driven, and we have reached the point where we were probably right. If he had fully disclosed everything that he knows about this matter earlier on, we may not be in this place right now.
Brett, you registered your deep disappointment a little bit earlier on. What did you find particularly disappointing? The report speaks to a number of issues, one of those being the alleged buyer of this game, the Sudanese businessman, whom the report scathingly calls his behavior, rather, as unbusinessman-like, also considering that that game sits in South Africa 2 years after the incident.
I think the most disappointing part is that the allegations were that the president's response was not robust enough or clear enough to deal with those allegations, and that in some parts the president's response sort of glossed over some of the allegations. And I think that this didn't help his case, and in fact the panel says that the absence of dealing with some of the allegations clearly and in a way that was sustained by supporting evidence led them to conclude that he has a prima facie case to answer. So I was disappointed in the manner in which the president responded to the allegations, but overall disappointed for the country that we have to go through this process at a time when all of us need to be focused on really important matters that affect millions of people who live in poverty and hoping to find some prosperity in the future. So the disappointment is that once again, we are distracted from the business of the people and dealing with the business of internal politics.
Yeah. Brett Herron is with the Good Party, coming through with a very different view, not calling for the president to step aside.